Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Regional Early Learning Resource Center. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza from the Early Learning Resource Center is the host of the program and is with us throughout the series. And John, we have someone on the line who shares some background with you. Are we going to do another 10 minutes before we go on and talking about Oil City?
Yes. Thanks, Joe. Now, this morning I'm so pleased to welcome Melinda Meyer, who is the program director for Erie Arts and Culture. And as Joe had mentioned, I'm originally from Oil City, and I just found out Melinda is also from Oil City. So, we share a little bit of background there. So, welcome to the program, Melinda.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today and so glad to share the air with someone else from Oil City.
Yeah. Hey, it was some time ago, maybe about a couple of years ago when we were in the early days of doing the show, and we did a show featuring your predecessor at Erie Arts and Culture, and it was such a great show, and I wanted to bring you on now because first of all, to give you the opportunity to first of all explain what Erie Arts and Culture is all about, and then also get into the educational aspects of what the the organization does for children. So give our listeners an idea of what Erie Arts and Culture is all about.
Oh, fantastic! So Erie Arts and Culture is a local arts agency, and what that means. We essentially are a support agency for the arts sector in our community. And so we provide resources like funding and workshops and trainings for those who work with nonprofit arts organizations, individual artists. So Erie Arts and Culture, we have a couple of different programs that we use really to funnel these, resources. We've got a grant making program, which is we issue small project grants, again to organizations and in some cases individual artists. And then we also have an arts and education program that supports placing teaching artists in residence in schools and community organizations. And then we also have something called the United Arts Fund, and the United Arts Fund is a fundraising tool for us, but it actually funds raised through that are used to support our grant-making program and some of our other special initiatives. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we do.
Yeah, and I'm most interested in the educational aspect of things that you fund and projects that you hold or work with children on. And, my of course, emphasis is early childhood education on this program. And I've always been fascinated with the arts and the impact the arts can have on children, particularly when it's at an early age to get them exposed to the arts. And it develops so much of their brain and their preparation for actual school. Can you talk a little bit about some of the programs that you do with either with schools or even with preschool children?
So I should also mention, as we get into more details on the arts and education program, the region that Erie Arts and Culture serves, it's because we have Erie in the name, it's easy for folks to think, oh, well, Erie Arts and Culture is the local arts agency that serves Erie only.
Right.
But we are actually doing work specifically with our arts and education program, not just in the city of Erie, not just in Erie County, but we really serve a 6-county footprint that is northwestern PA. So our arts and education program, we are actually working with Crawford, Erie, Warren, Mercer, Lawrence, and Venango counties.
Right.
So the arts and education program It is a partnership with the statewide Arts Council. It's called the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. So through that partnership with the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts, Erie Arts and Culture receives funding to support, again, the placement of teaching artists in schools and in early learning centers. So we just to give you an example, we have a local teaching artist by the name of Jennifer Dennehy, who has been working for 6 years with St. Martin's Early Child Care Center here in the city of Erie. And she's working with kids age 3 to 4. Well, she has some 5-year-olds as well, teaching them dance and movement. And yes, and the teachers that she's working with, because she's been there for 6 years, the teachers are seeing how the dance and movement instruction are helping the children make connections in their brain with, their motor skills. And the teachers have just been so honest and open with the progress they've seen in their students because of having dance and movement over a sustained period of time.
You also have worked with, you have so many partners I know, and I know we had a guest on from, I think it's from the Playhouse, Erie Playhouse, and they were doing and still do programs involving theater with children as well. And it's remarkable how children are really seem to be connected with the dramatic play. It's also the dramatic play aspect, and it builds their social emotional skills. And do you still have that involvement in working with that organization?
We do, actually. So through the Arts and Education program, we work with a lot of different schools and community organizations. Again, throughout northwestern Pennsylvania. The Erie Playhouse is one of the larger organizations that Erie Arts and Culture, we have really a formal relationship with. So the Erie Playhouse is what we refer to as a partner with a capital P.
Right.
And so the Erie Playhouse, the Erie Phil, the Experience Children's Museum, the Erie Maritime Museum in Brig Niagara, the Erie County Historical Society, those are all, some of our largest cultural institutions, and they are all partners with Erie Arts and Culture. So we work with the education departments of each of those large entities, as well as the Erie Art Museum. I cannot forget that partner as well.
Right.
In poor and urban areas and poor rural areas, as well as many middle-class households, the arts, classical music, theater, even literature, are not a part of family life, not seen as important. How can early childhood providers overcome this bias when they're trying to introduce the arts to young children, and what they're doing may not necessarily be endorsed or backed up when that child is back in the family home?
Oh, my goodness. That is a really interesting question. So organizations that are supporting or providing these services to the children, I would simply encourage them to make the most use of the time that they have with the students to utilize the arts. Several years ago, Erie Arts and Culture, we received a huge amount of funding. We received a $1.2 million grant through the U.S. Department of Education to implement a pilot project where we were evaluating the impact on integrating arts into curriculum and classroom learning on student learning behavior. And what we found, it was a 4-year research project, and what we found in every case when the arts were integrated into the existing curriculum, the students were more engaged in the classroom, right? So they were making eye contact, they were raising hands, they were participating in in-class activities. They were coming to school, so there was actually a decrease in truancy during the artist residency. So we were also seeing the arts being an equalizer. So we had teachers reporting to us, classroom teachers, reporting to us that not only were they seeing students more engaged in the classroom, they were also seeing students that had never that really had never been leaders before in the classroom, all of a sudden stepping into those leadership roles and guiding their classmates through these art processes, because the arts are really an equalizer, right? So, and it shines a light on students who it just gives all students an opportunity to really do their best. And so it was a phenomenal research project, and we most of the work was done in classrooms with typical students, but we did have at least two residencies where the teaching artist was working with the autism support classroom. And so in that classroom, there were even instances where students who had been nonverbal in the classroom began to be verbal in the classroom when the arts were integrated into the learning. So it was just a phenomenal research project.
And I'm sure, I would not doubt for 1 minute that research project, if it was done in several other areas, not only in Pennsylvania but across the country, you'd find similar results. I just the one thing that stands out to me is the inclusiveness of doing those programs, and also the creativity. I mean, children, as you all know, they love to have the outlet for being creative, and by doing that, it helps also when they work with other children in the same setting in building not only social and emotional, but also with fine motor skills, and even in an executive functioning and decisions. It's the creativity, the outlet that it gives them. And I think over time, those skills that they develop in the arts transfer over to the other academic subjects as well. So, that's why I'm always a firm believer in the arts and in the education world. We're speaking with Melinda Meyer this morning. She's the program director at Erie Arts and Culture. Melinda, tell us a little bit about maybe some of the firsthand experiences you've had working with younger children, and what you've actually witnessed through some of the programs with your partners in terms of their development and their preparation for school.
Sure. So now, let's see. So keep in mind that the vast majority of know that the work that we're doing actually spans pre-K through high school.
Right.
So I think that's important to note. As far as the work with the pre-K audience, we're finding through our residency experiences that the integration of the arts, again, that there's that student engagement. So we're finding that students are paying attention, they're listening, they are following instructions, which is part of that preparation for school,
right.
Beginning to follow the instruction that's provided by the classroom teacher, working in groups or as within with an individual team member. So we're seeing through the arts that our little tykes are just beginning to learn to work collaboratively, which is also important in getting them ready for school. And with, you mentioned motor skills, a lot of our residencies, whether it's a visual arts project where they're working with clay or maybe paint, or a dance and movement residency. They're working on both gross and fine motor skills, which are also valuable for getting them ready for school.
I'm sorry, go on.
Nope.
Okay. I'd like to take this up. I know this is a show about early childhood learning, but take it up to high school. When I went to high school, we had mandatory music classes, and there were electives you could take in things like drama and art. Faced with budget cuts again, especially in poor urban and rural areas, many schools have eliminated these classes. In your opinion, has this been short-sighted, and how do you make the case to local school boards who are having budget crunches to keep these programs, if not actual mandatory classes, at least as extracurricular activities?
So, the first thought that came to mind is to simply do a poll. I think it's interesting. So when you look at a school board, you're looking at community leadership, right? People who have chosen to serve their community by participating in a campaign and being elected to serve on school boards. So you're looking at community leaders. I think it'd be interesting to do a poll and ask, if you're standing in front of the school board, ask the school board who participated in band, who participated in chorus, who participated in a photography club or an arts club, and I would guess that the majority of the school board members would raise their hands. Mm-hmm. And that's because those of us in the arts, I think, would make the connection between what is learned by participating in a band program or a choral program or an after-school arts program. Leadership skills are developed, and I think I found this repeatedly. Anytime you're in front of a group that is community leadership, almost all of them have experience in the arts. And so it's just helping them to understand that experience that they had as high school students or middle school students is what helped develop their leadership skills to get them where they are today, whether it's serving on the school board or serving in other leadership positions. And I know that sounds basic, but I think that we need to make those types of connections because
I know where you're coming from, Melinda. I actually serve on my own school board in Brookville, and just to confirm a lot of what you were saying is, yes, I played an instrument, and I took choral, and I participated in drama when I was in school. So I definitely see the value, absolute value of it. And in Brookville, just in my own school district, as an example, we have a very reputable music program. And for those who are in like orchestra, band, and so forth, actually that is considered an academic subject. It's extracurricular when they actually are performing outside of school for the times that they have to do that. But in terms of the actual instruction, it's considered an academic. So it actually does, it's something that actually is very weighed in their overall academic record. So no, very, very strong. And so there, as you know, the earlier those skills can be developed with youngsters, the better. And, the one thing that I'm always fascinated to hear is when young children, some of them very, very early start playing an instrument, and you wonder how those skills get developed, especially when they don't have their full motor skills totally, the fine motor fully developed. And I went to a concert recently, and I saw a young boy playing the upright bass, and that's a very intricate instrument to play. And I was watching his fingers in the chord progressions, and I was just totally amazed. And this was a child that was, I believe in 4th or 5th grade. So it was a little bit, not in the earliest grades, but still at that point, it's amazing the adaptability and the earlier that those that practice and that is taken up, the better, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you also came from a background of either in music or theater or writing, literature.
So I would say that I spent most of my time writing and or drawing.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I did try the clarinet.
Oh, God, I did that too. It's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
For a year.
I saw on your website the photo of school kids sailing on the Brig Niagara. Okay, if I was a parent and I was to say to you, what good did that do to have my kids, sailing, goofing around on that boat? They could be in a classroom learning stuff. How would you respond to that?
I would say that in this case, you simply have to look at the Brig Niagara as a classroom, because it was experiential learning, right? So the kids, as part of their experience on the Brig Niagara, they were actually part of the crew. So they actually learned science and math just simply by being part of that crew and having to work with the rigging. Because as students, you can watch the rigging and see the pulleys, you can see how the entire system is built. You can see how many people it takes to move the sails. All of that is science and math related. So it's teaching being on board the Brig Niagara. They're teaching the things that students need to learn as part of their science and math curriculum, and I'm just picking on science and math. We could also talk about social studies. We could talk about, the language arts if they are asked to write about their experience on the Brig Niagara. It's just in a different venue, and the fact that they are actually in a different venue, I think would probably reinforce or strengthen the learning for the students. And I don't know, does that make sense?
Absolutely does make sense. And for folks who have not seen or been on the Brig Niagara, I highly recommend it because it's such a major part of history, especially along Lake Erie. And it's so well preserved what they've done up there. Great opportunity, especially for students in school. Melinda, we only have a minute left, so really quickly, can you give us an idea of some of maybe the projects that are on the horizon in the near future that you're involved with?
Sure. Well, Erie Arts and Culture, we have about 27 different artists in residence this school year, and some of them have already wrapped up, but others are about to be wrapped up. We're super excited. Right now we've got 4 teaching artists in residence in the 3 middle schools with Erie's public schools. On May 23rd, there's going to be a public culminating event where the parents and students and teaching artists and teachers can all come together and share the work that has been produced through those residencies. One is going to be a mural. We've got dance. We've got lots of different art forms represented. So that
sounds great.
In the pipeline now.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much. Our time has run up, Melinda. So thankful for you being on the program. Melinda Meyer, Program Director for the Erie Arts and Culture. Hope to have you back again.
Thank you. Would love to be here.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back at 2 weeks in this same time. In the meantime, you can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. For John Posa and the Early Learning Resource Center, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.